What up, everybody? Good to see you. Sorry I'm a wee bit late. Had to get some technical things sorted out. I'm hoping you can all hear me. If you can hear me, can you write me a wee message on the YouTube? The YouTubings. I don't know. Hopefully, you have watched my last episode. So I got my friend Jimmy's GoPro footage right after the game, which was like a month ago. And he asked me to do a wee bit of an edit for him because he doesn't have a clue about computers or editing or anything. So I guess it's for people like him that don't really know where to start, or I don't know. Maybe you've done a wee bit, maybe you've done photos or whatever, but you may have been airsofting for years, but you are just clueless about editing. So hopefully this is where I come into play. I know quite a few of my friends have GoPros or various action cams, and they film all their airsoft games, but they've never ever done anything with them. And it's such a shame because, you know, you want to get them out there and watch them back and make them viewable as well. You don't want you don't want 2 hours worth of footage of running through a field and getting like 3 kills or whatever like that. And that's where the benefit of us YouTubers like to splice and dice and try and, sorry, might have just hit the mic there, splice and dice everything and get it, to a standard where it's viewable. No one out there is putting out a live video of them airsofting. And it's the same as movies. If you watched a character, jump in a taxi and you seen their taxi drive in silence with the taxi driver, and then he turned up at the next scene, the 2-hour movie would be gone, and yeah, it wouldn't be a good movie. So that's what we're doing. Let's see who all's online. Where are you all from? Let's see. We have Fox Green in the house, apparently. He is hailing out of Ireland. Check his YouTube channel out. He's been going a few years now. I think, I don't know, what is it? Maybe about 2-3 years. He's quite recent, but he's doing really, really well. He's got like 6,500 views or something like that. Hatchet Havoc's online as well. Good to see you, dude. Hutchie is on. I don't know if you guys seen Hutchie's video, but he just posted up. Enz is online as well. He's from the UK. So Hutchie's from the UK, Havoc's from Ireland, Fox Green's from Ireland. Jamie Flanagan is in the house as well. Son Ranger X, Catherine Longridge, who is Evo Athena, who is my partner, who's probably getting the kids ready. So thanks for taking care of the kids while I do this. So yeah, let's see, 2 years. Fox Green is 2 years, and there's Blackhawk online as well. It's good to see you guys. Thanks for tuning in. So yeah, I don't know whether you've seen my Instagram and things like that, so we're going to be going over footage and things like that. But before we do, let's talk a wee bit about cameras. So my background is cameras. I haven't been a professional videographer or filmmaker or photographer for any length of time. Basically what kickstarted it was I have a sound and lighting background, thus I'm really good at lighting things, which is really good for camera. But so I had that background, and I started working in a college, and we did performing arts, and I previously worked for a video company and an audiovisual company, so I learned all about cameras and projectors and things like that. I started working on Final Cut Pro 7 and started tinkering about making my own little movies, which were probably awful to watch, but they're brilliant looking back on it, which is why I say to you, even if you bring your GoPro out and film it for a few minutes or whatever, or for a couple of games, splice and dice that up really quickly, and you'll always have the memories. So it doesn't matter how good it is, you'll always have the memories if that's all it ever goes to. But yeah, so getting back to the story, I started working in performing arts and had a bit of background in editing, and so I had to create a lot more film material and TV material for the students who were learning drama. TV techniques, acting techniques, and film acting techniques. And so I was heavily involved in all that there. I started using green screen, and to be honest, I had a wee bit of a background, but basically I learned everything off YouTube. Anytime I didn't know how to do something, I would just go on YouTube right away and type in how to do a good green screen and what it takes, how do you light a green screen, everything. You can find everything on YouTubings nowadays. So yeah, that was my kind of background. And then Eva, Athena and I, well, I was in a pretty good job. I was a technical consultant, so basically I designed sound systems and lighting systems and everything, and so I did a lot less filming other than running about the house and doing photos for my own memories and things like that. And so yeah, Eva, Athena and I were told we were having twins, and I thought to myself, flip, I don't want to be working a 60-hour week anymore, so let's pack it all in. What am I good at? What could I do and things like that? So I did a calculated risk. I had jobs coming in for weddings and things like that and various filming things, and I thought, right, let's start doing this then. So I use a Blackmagic Design cinema camera, which is what you guys are seeing now. You are seeing the footage for that. It's really awesome. It's a cinema camera, so there's no focusing in it. It's really difficult to use, but the quality of it is really mind-blowing. So it's really good that way. So going from that's the really high-end kind of cinema camera. I then have a Sony mirrorless camera, which is really good autofocus. In fact, it tracks your eyeball, and no matter where you move in the frame, it would focus on you, and it's a really good camera. I use that for photos, and I use it for various filming projects that require me to be really quick and on the spot. I literally have to hit record and point it at someone, and it focuses it all for me, which is a big help. And yeah, so I've always had action cameras. I've had GoPros. I got an Insta360 just for the airsoft stuff, which we'll get into in a wee second. But action cameras, yeah, so I had the GoPro Hero 2, and it was mind-blowing whenever it first came out. It was just like, wow, I want to go snowboarding and I want to film myself. And the footage came out of it, and back then it looked absolutely amazing. And the quality of them have just got way better, and especially now. The biggest thing about the GoPro cameras is actually the stabilisation. The old GoPros used to shake like mad, and even if you tried walking along holding it, it was too small, and every little movement and wind and everything would make you shake and give you horrendous footage. So stabilisation is quite a good one, which we'll get into in a wee second. So yeah, I've had all those GoPros, and in January, in fact, Fox Green, Catherine and I, Eva, Athena and I, we used to sit in on a Friday night, and one of our friends, Gaz, would come down, and we would get a takeaway, and we would go on YouTube. We don't have terrestrial TV in our house, so we're just constantly on YouTube, Netflix, and everything like that. And yeah, it's it's weird because we would just go on YouTube and we would watch Fox Screen, and there was also Deadshot, Dylan from Cork, and we would watch these guys. And my friend used to always say, "Oh, Dave, you should make these videos. You'd be really good at them and everything." And I just kind of shrugged my shoulders and went, meh. And you know, he knew that I loved airsoft, and I do love airsoft. My first airsoft gun was a VSR-10, and I've had it ever since. And I was doing CQB with a VSR-10, and I know it sounds mad, having a sniper rifle for CQB, but everybody was locked down to one duel, so I was on an even playing ground anyway with the power output. But yeah, it was interesting trying to get the reloads and all in, but it taught me to be really quick, and it taught me how to shoot from the hip and a 360 hip shots and things like COD, which I have never done, but I will. Maybe that could be a Novrich challenge, 360 hip shot maybe. But anyway, getting back to it again then. So my friend says, yeah, you love airsoft, you love filming, you should make these videos. And I was just like, eh. And he came down for like a few months, and we would watch these videos, and we've always watched them. And there's a guy, if you haven't checked him out, I don't think he's released a video in 9 years or something like that. It's been a really long time, but the channel's still on there, which is good. But his name is Vanvan, VANVA, or VANVANN, I think. But type in Vanvan French Airsoft Sniper, and he was the first one that I watched who had these GoPros attached to his guns and the scope cam. And the scope cam back then was probably a big flipping video camera sellotaped to his scope. But that's what he used, and I really, really like that. And so I've kind of going up my airsoft career, seeing these snipers and going, wow, that's cool. And then obviously Norwich started out. Now Norwich is huge, and he actually took over, I think, from when Van disappeared. Suddenly this guy Norwich appeared, and he filled that gap, and he's done really well at that. And yeah, so then one January, I don't know, or January there, one week in January, I don't know why, but I just decided, do you know what, I'm going to start making airsoft videos. And I went out that week, and even Athena will tell you, I just went out. So this brings me on to my first topic, which is cameras. So I had to go out and buy cameras. Now there's a lot of cheap Chinese action cams. Why do you call it Chinese? Because they're from China. But sorry, that was a little Donald Trump joke. But yeah, you get a lot of them, and they may be really, really cheap, but they may be really good, but they may be really crap. So I decided to stick with GoPro, something like that, and got second-hand ones. I got a GoPro Hero Session 4 and a GoPro 5. So they're quite old now, but the quality of them are brilliant. Like, if you've watched my videos, I'm so happy with them. And yeah, they're they're just really, really good. Now, the GoPro the GoPro Session 4 doesn't have any stabilization. It doesn't do 4K, but it does 1080-60. The GoPro Hero 5 does do 4K, up to 30 frames a second, and it also has stabilization. So what I decided to do was I got the Session because it's so small, and I didn't want to, unbalance my gun too much and make it really obvious that I'm carrying something. So I stuck the GoPro Hero the Session 4 on the end of my barrel to keep it nice and lightweight. How I do that is, it's some makeshift, I don't know, some Velcro strap. I think it may be a wrist strap or something. But basically I Velcro it around the barrel, and then I cable tie it on. It's came off a couple of times, which I really need to get something proper. But if I spend the time and cable tie it properly, then it doesn't budge. So that's what I have on the end of my barrel. On the gun, I have a Runcam 2. And I may be changing to a Runcam Lite. It's cheaper than the Runcam 2, but it's newer, and I think the technology is better because the quality seems to be way better as well. Yeah, there's Harcheon saying, I bought all my cameras from Facebook Marketplace. Yeah, it's a brilliant way of doing it. Rather than going into Lidl or Tesco's or wherever and buying like a really cheap one, or even Amazon. Let's see, if you have a selfie cam, it doesn't need stabilization, only need it for a head cam. I used the Session as my selfie cam in the beginning also. Yeah, so Fox Green made a good point there. Also, I also find he's saying that you need stabilization for your head. I find that I don't need it too much. The reason being for that is your head acts as a normal stabilizer, and so mine's stuck to my head, so it is quite stable, and I'm pretty happy with it. A Picatinny barrel clamp, Old Man Sniper is saying, yeah, so some people get the barrel clamp and then you attach it on that way. The problem with that for me is I was running an Aries Striker kneecapper, and it has a huge silencer on it. Like, it's pretty darn thick. I think I wrapped mine in moss and a few leaves and everything, so that didn't actually fit on mine. So I may have to get a makeshift one or just keep on using the Velcro for that gun. For the SRS though, it's fine. So yeah, the Runcam 2, it's given me loads of problems recently, and I don't know why, and I can't get to the bottom of it. Basically, if I record a clip and the clip is 5 minutes long, the clip ends early, but it's running really, really, really fast footage wise and visually. It's very, very fast. However, the audio is in normal speed, so it's not even in sync with itself. So whenever I get into Final Cut Pro and I sync all the audio, the audio is correct, but the camera's way off, and it's way it's a nightmare. So I worked out that I have to slow down that footage by 90%. I have checked all the frame rates, and yeah, it's on 60 FPS, 60 frames a second, just like the other cameras. So it should sync up, it should be exactly the same, and it doesn't. So it's a bit of a nightmare, and I don't know how I'm going to get around it, but I'll try. So yeah, I may get the Runcam Lite. Eva Athena wants a scope cam on her gun, so we'll definitely need to at some point, so we'll see what happens. But the Runcam Lite, I hear, is phenomenal. I know, who is it, one of our friends, Flip, I can't remember who it is, Guy Jamie, I think, Headhunter Sniper from Cork. He got a Runcam Lite and he sent me some of the footage of it, and it looks brilliant, especially for the price of it. I think it was only 80 quid or something like that, or 90 quid, which is really, really good considering my one was about 150 or something. And they can go really, really, really expensive. So that's what I have on the gun. On my head then, I have the GoPro Hero 5. I do have the stabilization on, so I'll have to do a wee test to run it off and see whether the stabilization does make a difference on the head. I do find that your head is a natural stabilization, as I said before, and should sort everything out. So if you're going absolute budget, yeah, just try and get whatever you can, but try and get a GoPro 4. Even my GoPro Hero 4 Black, or was it a 3 Plus Black or something, even that, the footage out of that is brilliant. It doesn't have stabilization, so you'll just have to watch out for that. Yeah, Runcam Lite is under €100 delivered. There we go. Old Man Sniper is all over it. I do run all audio off the one camera and only use the audio to line up the cameras, so switching between them is smooth. Yeah, so I use that as well. But say I clapped at the start and got that nice big peak on the audio form, the peaks would all line up, but my footage wouldn't line up. Or if I got it to line up at the very, very start, it would go quickly out of sync. So I would find like a minute later, because it's running fast, I would have already taken the shot whenever you see the selfie cam of me lifting the rifle up to my eye to see down the scope. And so I would have to backtrack looking for it as well. So yeah, that's the cameras that I use. Just for another little like spice, I decided to get an Insta360 camera. Now Insta360 or 360 camera footage in general is really, really new to me. I got it on a whim, and I wanted something for my holidays actually, and don't tell the tax man that, it's a tax reduction. I needed it for work, because I do all the filming for work. But no, so we were going away on holiday, and rather than getting the new GoPro or whatever it was at like 350 quid, I decided to spend a wee bit extra and get a 360 camera because I already had the cheap cameras. The footage out of that is amazing. It's really, really sharp. I think it's 5.7K. Now that's 5.7K of 3D, so it doesn't, or sorry, 360, so it doesn't work out. You can't watch it as a flat image at 5.7K. I'll maybe show you it, but it records it flat, and then basically it warps it into the 360 and you view wherever you want to look. If you do it through the phone, It's really, really nice. You can load the footage onto your phone and you can hit record and you can look at wherever you want to look, and it's very, very fast to edit that way. However, whenever you bounce it out, it only bounces it out to phone quality, and the other problem with that is it also puts a watermark on it saying Insta360, or this was created with Insta360 or something like that. So yeah, it's best putting it into the computer. What I found, I had problems with the Insta360 camera. One, I couldn't get it to sit right where I wanted it. I wanted it slightly over my right shoulder, but slightly further out. This would allow me to get a really nice side image of myself. And then because it was 360, I could rotate around and look at other people. I could look at teammates and give, you know, a perspective of what they were shooting at, or enemy coming up behind me, anything like that. It's really, really good. I could walk along or run along, and the Insta360 camera footage is stabilized really, really well. So it was very, very good for that, for getting the running shots. If you didn't want to use the head, you could almost do this kind of Gear of War third person view, so you could kind of see over my shoulder and see the field ahead of me, which was really, really good. So that was really, really good. But the problem was I couldn't get it to sit where I wanted it to sit. Now, I'll probably, if I get another one, because I'll tell you a sad story, but if I get another one, I'll maybe fabricate something to kind of help hold it out. Maybe get somebody to 3D print something or do something weird. I know some people put the Insta360s, or Airsoft Cam Man uses the GoPro Fusion, I think, 360. He uses that at the end of the gun, which is really effective. Kicking Mustang uses it the odd time. It's literally just a monopod pole, kind of like a selfie stick, which he cable ties or something to his chest rig, so it physically stays up behind him, which gives you that really, really good view. So yeah, if I can't get the kind of drippiness 360 look right, then I may have to go for that rigid pole as well. So the problem with the 360 camera is once I import it into the computer, I have to use the Insta360 Studio software. I wonder, do I have anything here? I don't think I do. I'll load it up just in case I do. But I don't have any footage because I no longer have the camera. I lost it, which is the very sad story. Whenever I was up climbing a mountain. So I don't have it anymore to show you. Might be able to show you some. I'll be able to show you it in Final Cut Pro though. And how you get it from to Final Cut Pro is you have to go from the camera to laptop and into the Insta360 software, which is a package on Mac or PC. You run it through that software, and then you have to convert all the clips. Now, if you're recording all day, there's like 4 hours maybe of footage that you then need to convert, which is taking an absolute age to do. So as I was saying to Fox Green one time, the longest part of my edits used to be converting that 360 footage. It just took ages, and then once I got it into the computer, I could whiz away and be really quick at it. But whenever you're waiting on the computer, it was just taking ages. So that's a 360 camera, really, really good camera. Can highly recommend the Insta360. We got the dive case, or what we thought was the dive case, but it's like a waterproof case, and it affects the image a wee bit. Sometimes you can see a banding around like where it's stitching the footage together to get that 360 look, but I keep it on because it protects the BBs, or the lens, from getting hit from BBs, and it also helps protect it from rain and things like that, mud and scrapes, rather than just leaving it the bare camera. So that's the cameras. The next thing to really talk about is editing hardware. So at the minute, I'll be using my MacBook Pro. Again, I got this secondhand. It's a 2016. But I also built my own computer, which I call the Hackintosh. Many other people call it Hackintoshes, because it's a PC basically, but it runs Mac OS X. And the MacBook Pro, even though it was secondhand, cost like 3 times the price of the Hackintosh. The Hackintosh has SSDs in it. It has an 8 gig video card in it. It has a radiator cooler to keep the CPU nice and cool. The motherboard in it allows me to take Type-C USB, which is brand new, obviously. And I built it all for about 400 or 500 quid. The tower might have been like 40 quid. The fans were like a tenner each. The radiator was about 60. The SSDs were a wee bit expensive. RAM was really, really expensive. So I've only got 16 gig of RAM rather than the 32 because it was just so expensive then. But yeah, what else was there? Yeah, the motherboard, I think it was about 120 quid. Then the processor, it was about 120 quid. So I can't remember the exact figure, but it must have been, definitely wasn't any more than 600 quid. Now I do have it, like a few SSDs in it. But I had them already, so I didn't need to fork out on money on them. Now, talking about hardware for editing your videos, if you're going to be doing serious editing, i.e. you're going to be editing week in, week out, which I've been trying to do for YouTube, but I certainly do in my daytime job whenever we aren't, trying to run from COVID-19. But the processor, it's really easy to get a fast processor. The i7 is still a really, really fast processor. And what you'll find is processors are actually not the bottleneck of where the majority of the work needs to be done. So the processor can handle all the work, and the processor will be going, give me more tasks, I can do it all. The RAM, if you've got loads of RAM, will be carrying all the equipment, going, yep, we can carry this here. But you'll actually find that your graphics card is one that people often overlook. You need a really good graphics card to be able to handle, if you imagine a little painter inside your computer painting out all these JPEGs of all the frames, he would effectively be the graphics card. So it's churning out all the graphics with the help from the processor and the RAM, but they're really, really fast. And if you don't have a fast graphics card, then that will be your bottleneck. Your next bottleneck could be a hard drive versus an SSD. So SSD stands for solid state drive. So it doesn't have a disk in it. It kind of works very similar to RAM. It's just got the information right there on a plate in front of you. Whereas a disk has the information darted all over like a kind of mini CD, and it has to spin this disk to get to wherever that information is, which takes a very long time. Whereas SSD just goes, there you go. So if you go on YouTube and check out SSDs, you'll find people, whenever they install it into their Macs, or certainly whenever they came out, people would highlight every application in their Mac and hit open, and literally you would just see all the windows just going bang, 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 and appearing just there, right there, really, really quick. So SSDs are certainly a way to go. If your laptop doesn't have an SSD, but it has Type-C, which is a really fast connection, or a Thunderbolt 2 or Thunderbolt 3, they're really, really fast connections. So you could get an SSD caddy, which I probably have somewhere. Yeah. So this is a little caddy. That's one of the SSDs. And it just slots in there. And this one is a USB 3. So it's a really, really fast one, and it helps limit that bottleneck and helps to get the information to the processor and to the RAM. So I may be going into too much detail here, but some people don't know the info and they're asking what laptop to get. This one has an SSD, or this has loads of memory, or this has like a really fast processor. I'm just letting you guys know that some of those things you need to look out for. A graphics card is definitely would be my number one thing to look out for, because number one, in a laptop you can't replace a graphics card, I don't think. Otherwise it's very, very difficult. And what was number two? Can't remember. But anyway, yeah, the graphics card is a biggie. Now if sorry, that'll bring me on to my other point that I was going to make. if you're going out to buy an editing computer, don't get a laptop, because a laptop, you're spending the money on the portability. And if you're going to be editing in the house, then just get a tower. I know it's a lot bigger, but just stick it, I don't know, under a table or something, and get a nice big screen, and edit on that there. You'll find that you can then very easily open up the side of it, take the graphics card out after 6 months when you've saved up a bit more money, and stick a new graphics card in it. If you run out of, like, you want a new processor, you can take the processor out and put it in, whereas with a laptop it's very, very difficult to do that. So yeah, don't get a laptop if you can. Get a tower, because it'll be worthwhile. I know you have to buy then a keyboard and a mouse, but even a plasma screen or anything, you can plug into that, and that'll save you some money. I'm just going to check out some of the little comments here. I wonder, is there a way of factory hard resetting the Runcam 2? Some sort of button combo, maybe? Yeah, I'm not too sure. The Runcam thing is a bit of an awkward one, because I have tried to duplicate the problem, and what I did was I loaded up the world clock on my laptop, and I held the GoPro back on the kitchen table or something, and I hit record, and I clapped at the start in time with the clock, and then I ran it for 15 minutes, and then at the end of the 15 minutes, with the clock still in play, I clapped again, and it was all in sync, and it hadn't sped up at all, which was really random. And then I went out for another gameplay, just thinking that it was a freak problem, and the same thing happened. So I'm really not too sure. I even tried it the other day to do, because someone had said that or I think in the manual it says that you can't charge it while you're using it. I use a power bank, which we all do, and it might have overheated or something like that, but I tried duplicating it again and ran it on the table. So the only thing is that I think of is maybe the shaking of the gun or something. I don't know. But yeah, factory restart, and apparently the firmware is up to date as well, so I can't even update the firmware. Yeah, so Foxscreen is saying that you can do a factory reset. Yeah, that'd be good. Jackal's in the house. Nice to see you, Jackal. If you haven't gone on Jackal Airsoft's or Airsoft Jackal's YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, get on there. He's doing a competition at the minute, and he'll be introducing you to a few airsofters as well, which would be really, really nice. So get on that. The prizes are pretty good. I think he gave away a gun in his last competition, and a silencer, I think. Yeah, I think it was a Tokyo Marui MK23. So nice one, Jackal. Big fan. He also sold me the Novice scope that I have on my gun because I broke mine. Dun dun dun. Yeah, so Foxscreen is saying basically similar to a decent gaming computer. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Gamers love to run their games at 96 FPS or 120 FPS. So then they see the kills before it happens near enough, because if you do it on a 24 frame screen, by the time it shows you what is happening or the player has turned around the corner, they've already got it because they're getting it fed all those frames. So yeah, there's Phoenix Feather Airsoft. Yeah, it's the Runcam 2, dude. Having loads of problems with it. So Runcam Lite maybe on the go. Don't know. We'll see. So yeah, that's the hardware then covered. Don't go for a laptop, although I'm using one today, but the only reason I'm using it today is, one, I wanted to do it at my desk, which is a nice background, and two, it means that I can have Final Cut open on my other desktop, and I can see it more clearly whenever doing the live stream. So that covers that. There was another wee thing about hardware. Oh yeah, batteries then. At the minute, I run only a battery to my scope cam and my rifle cam. I actually don't use one for my head. For some reason, the GoPro 5 battery is phenomenal and it lasts me the whole day. If I get up to lunch, then I open it up and I do have battery packs with me, and I leave it charging over lunch, which may be half an hour, 40 minutes, maybe an hour. But it charges it fine, then I'm back out. We tend to not stay to 5 o'clock, just because we're so busy with the twins and everything. So, let's see. Ends, did you craft your goggles with cotton from the Halo screen? Well spotted, Ends. I did, and funny enough, right before doing the live stream, I've had my goggles out. Now these are made by Old Man Sniper, I think. These are really, really good, because the mesh on them is really, really wide. So the normal mesh goggles really, really annoy me, and I tried using clear goggles, but they kept on fogging up. And I know there's X-Fog and there's Fairy Liquid and there's even saliva techniques to help stop that. But in Northern Ireland, whenever it gets really hot and I'm sweaty, and you know the moisture in the air, and there's always rain over here in the summer, actual puddles form on the lens, so it's not steaming up, it's actual puddles. So that's why I don't use clear. But yeah, so here's my goggles, and I actually peeled all the Halo screen off them. I did it really, really good, or sorry, peeled all the cotton off them, which is here. I did a really quick job of it, just because I had a couple of games to go to, and I got them in the post, and I was just like, right, gotta get this ready for Saturday, so they aren't bare. And they do an okay job, but one thing that I was really careful of was not to cover the eyes too much and try to keep it all on the frame. But by doing that and scrunching it up, the leaves or the cotton wouldn't unfold properly to give a bigger sort of look. So it made this kind of outline of brown, and I didn't really like that because it then gave you two kind of shapes that someone may or may not spot. But that's what that is. But yeah, I did get cotton from the Halo screen. Okay, def check the lens cable connection. Could also be that it cuts out frames randomly. Had that too. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. Did the cable pop out? And once I haven't tried that actually. I must try like plugging it in for 6 minutes and then whipping out the USB, because the USB does pop out every so often. I did get magnetic ones though to help prevent or help protect the USB. Let's see. Did you attach the cotton with glue? Yes, I did. I use shoe glue, and the only reason I use that is because a couple of years ago some guy by the name of Kicking Mustang did a ghillie crafting video, and Catherine and I sat and watched it and went, right, this is what we're gonna do. Because I had a leaf suit at the time, and I wanted to get I knew even my job, so I'm used to colouring footage every day, so I'm really, really good at colours. So whenever I seen my leaf suit and I seen the vegetation and the mud and the brown leaves all around me, I was like, flip, this is like night and day. So I was really keen to get it all perfect. So yeah, go on Kicking Mustang's channel. Or another thing, if you want loads of free information, go on Facebook and type in Sniper Ops and ask to join that group. I got loads of help from the guys in that. It's really, really nice. It's monitored really well, and yeah, really, really good stuff. What type of chest rig do I use? I use a cheap Viper chest rig. I don't even know if it has a model name. I just went on Amazon and went I checked the pockets. It has a wide one at the front, which are good for sniper magazines, and then it has 3 smaller magazine things, so they're perfect for my MK23. And then it has a couple of wide pockets outside the big one. So I have 2 MK23 mags in that one pocket that's velcroed round, and then I have another pistol mag, which I use another magazine. There's a magazine in the gun, which is a double tap designs holster, and it attaches on, so I'm cross drawing, and it's got a mag, so I'm running 4 mags. And the other pocket to my left of the center pocket holds my Thunderbee grenade, just for whenever things get hairy. Okay, radio silence. I will do that. Send me a wee message on Instagram if you could, aka Staten, all one word. But yeah, I didn't have any issues until that one day, and now I'm constantly getting it. And I've noticed that even in the folder, it creates like a text file of some, I don't know, it must be some type of, or I looked it up online, and it is like a warning text thing that says pretty much that your camera stopped recording. So that's what that is. So yeah, I don't want to talk too much about gear, well, about my guns and things like that there. We'll leave that for another time. I've advertised it to talk about editing videos, so that's what I'll do. What's everybody running? Are people on Final Cut Pro? Are people on Premiere? There's Sony Vegas. Is there anything else out there? What are you guys using, or do you not have anything at the minute and you are looking? I know Adobe, I think, is possibly a subscription thing, so I don't know whether you can try it out for a month and see if you like it before you buy it. Final Cut Pro, certainly you do have to buy at the start. I think I bought it many years ago, like about 6 years ago, and Apple just keep on giving you free updates even though it's changed, so that's really good. iMovie, yeah, iMovie is really good. Sony Vegas Pro, really good. I know there's DaVinci Resolve as well. Now DaVinci Resolve is a bit of an odd one. Basically Blackmagic Design bought over the company, and Blackmagic Design are the company that do DaVinci Resolve, and normally Blackmagic Design only created it for coloring, and so all the Hollywood movies, well, a large majority of them would have used DaVinci Resolve to color their footage and then send that footage on to the editor that would have edited it. But it's now kind of opened up, and I think they're trying to make it a lot more customer friendly. Now there is a free version, and the only difference between the paid like £600 version and the free version is the noise reduction and one other feature, which I can't remember, and that is it. Everything else is exactly the same. The layout, it's not like iMovie versus Final Cut Pro, it's the exact same software. So if you're really stuck, there's loads of DaVinci Resolve tutorials, and it's really good. As I say, Hollywood uses it day in, day out. Lots of TV colorists and editors are now using it. And the other benefit, even if you're on Premiere or Final Cut Pro and you want to go to it, or maybe as say because you don't want to pay a subscription to Premiere anymore, download DaVinci Studio, I think it's called, DaVinci Resolve Studio, and give it a go and stick on some tutorials, and it should be all good. Sorry, just one more thing on DaVinci Resolve. Once you load it up for the first time, it'll ask you your background on editing, and do you want it to look like Premiere or do you want it to look like Final Cut Pro? So the makers of it who have released this new one, which is 16 or 17, they've really gone out on a boat and pretty much designed two types of softwares, so it'll look like your Final Cut Pro or your Premiere to kind of help you get familiar with it. So it's really good. It costs nothing, so why not? So everybody download DaVinci Resolve. I have it because I use my cinema camera. It shoots in RAW, and so I can only use DaVinci Resolve for that RAW footage. I think Premiere Pro released a plugin that allows you to import the RAW footage, but Final Cut Pro still aren't. I think Apple are being a wee bit funny because of the licensing or something. So, let's jump straight in then, shall we? Let's have a wee look. So I'm using Final Cut Pro. Anybody that's not, just bear with it. There'll be a lot of differences, but a lot of similarities. So here is all my sort of projects of actual timelines. So I have copied Jamie's timeline in, and this is all his edit done, which we'll be going over today. And this is where all the footage is. So if you want to click on a clip, just whatever one that you're doing, let's see, it's hard to find these. Oh, there's the 360 camera stuff. So that's what it looks like. It's kind of this big weird, it's almost like an atlas. If you ever remember those flat poster atlases, and you look at the equator, that's effectively what that is. So I'll actually be able to show you how to edit that. If anybody is interested in 360 camera footage, let me know. Just say yes in the comments, or say something about the 360, and certainly I'll go into that. But it may not be for everybody, and it is a wee bit advanced. So yeah, you would normally click on your clip. There's DJI. So I also have a drone, which is a Mavic 4K Pro. Pretty good quality. I know there's newer ones out there, and even actually Fox Screen has the Mavic 2, which is the newer one, but he has the Mavic 2 Zoom, and it's class, like, because he uses it for reconnaissance on milsims and things. Go and check it out. Fox Screen, I don't know if you can post in a link or anything, but show them that. And also check out his homemade DIY bomb that he's made. It's almost like a mortar round made out of a Nerf gun, and he's designed a special little hook that holds this mortar round, and he flies the drone with this Nerf ball over the enemy and releases it. And I think the site owners all know about it, so they make it a 20-meter kill radius, which is huge. So whenever you hear this thing whistling down towards you, you better get in undercover. So that's really cool. So check that out. But drones are getting really, really cheap nowadays. I did have a Spark, and I think it was about 300 quid. So you could always get one of them if you're interested in drones. You might be able to pick up a second-hand one for maybe, I don't know. There might be about 150 quid now, because there's newer ones out. There's Fox Screen saying the Zoom is useful. I will link there now. Cool. Yeah, so if you want, check out that link. I highly recommend it. And obviously Fox Screen's a bit of a legend in terms of YouTubings, so check out all his videos. But definitely that one, I think I'm not too sure if it's a milsim, Foxy Green, but there was one that we watched one night, and yeah, you were doing reconnaissance. Pretty sure it was a milsim, but if there's that one. But yeah, so that's obviously the drone footage. I've deliberately put drone footage in this clip for Jamie. So I know Jamie just had one GoPro camera, but this is how you create a better video. If you don't have a drone, the site owner may have a drone, and he may be flying it for his own promo purposes. Just go up and ask him. I know at Predator Airsoft, there's a guy that likes to get a drone up. He's one of the marshals, and I think he actually uses it to keep an eye on the game as well. But no doubt, everybody in the Airsoft world is really, really nice, so I'm sure you could collab with them and give them a shout out or something. But yeah, go up and ask them, or if you see someone else flying it, just go up and ask them. The worst they can do is say, no, you aren't getting my footage, but hey. So if you don't have a drone, that's one of the ways, or a couple of the ways. Either buy a second-hand one really cheap, a Spark's really good, or ask someone. So the next thing is, let's see, well, let me just go into, we'll make it a wee bit full screen for you, will we? Hopefully that makes it a wee bit clearer. So this is the edit here. Hopefully you've all watched it. So it starts off with this flashy drone footage, graphic overlays. And if you watch my video, you'll actually notice that I put a spell mistake in by accident. So, more drone footage. And once again, we're back to GMA. So we've added the wee hit marker and the hit sound effect. We also have helicopter noises. And we have a backing track. So we'll be getting into music and sound effects in a wee second. And the other thing that I've added in to Jamie's video is to show him also my point of view. So we'll go to that just to show you. So it switches from Jamie, and then he's getting ready to place the bomb. And in this game, I took up a spot of Overwatch, and I kept eyes on the target, which was this artillery. Again, this wasn't Jamie's footage, so you may be saying to yourself, well, I thought you made it only with one GoPro, but I had it, so I'm sure there's plenty of other people out there on your airsoft sites that have GoPro footage. So again, collab with people, ask them, here, could you send me some of that footage? That was really good. It'd be good to add people and things like that. So is there any questions you guys have before I start? Is there anything that you guys have ever been stuck with? Don't forget, I have quite a bit of knowledge on this, so I hopefully should be able to answer you, but if I can't, I'll find out for you and I'll message you. But yeah, let's get into how this edit starts. So obviously I have the DJI Mavic Pro. So say you borrowed a Pro or someone's footage or anything. So it normally just comes in like so, and you basically gotta bring it in. So say you find a spot that you like. So let's just grab this bit of footage here. So for me, I just click and drag and drop it in. And you'll notice actually, if I go from there to there, you'll notice that there's black bars. That's because the Mavic shoots in a cinema or more of a cinema style ratio. So, but I'm on a 1080 timeline. So it's actually 4K footage in a 1080 timeline. So this is quite important, and I'll try and explain it as best as possible. But that's the 4K footage being viewed in a 1080 timeline. So basically what that means is, say you have a yellow pack of Post-its, okay? So it's that size, right? That would be the equivalent of a 1080 timeline, right? But the 4K footage would be the size of a proper envelope. So that means you can then move that envelope to look at anywhere in the screen. So we can kind of cheat and do a kind of Mavic zoom if we wanted, like so. So if I split this footage up into two and I make this footage regular and I want it to fit in, but I want the rest of the footage to jump in and do a zoom. There we go. So we can see clearly then, sorry about that. We can see clearly this bridge, or say there was enemy running along here, you can then punch in. So instead of getting that wide look where they're all really, really, really tiny, we can zoom in. And that's only zooming in, that's at 100%. But obviously you can go further than that if you wish, which is what I did with Jamie's. But there's quite a bit of detail in there. There's even 150%. So just to show you the difference between that and that. Yeah, it's quite a bit of a punch in. So it's maybe a wee bit blurry, but maybe it's better to get the shot, you know, than the shot not to be there. So that's one way to creatively use digital zooms, which we also do on Jamie's GoPro. Jamie's GoPro was set to like something like 2.7K. So I can't really remember what he had it on. I'm pretty sure it was about 2.7K, so it was a wee bit bigger than 1080. So I was able to zoom in. So just to show you some of Jamie's shots here then. Let's see. Sorry, this laptop's in front of me, so it's getting in the way a wee bit. Yeah, so there's Jamie's shot there. So that's the distance. That's the zoom. Let me just check. What I'll do is, sorry, I'm just trying to see. Yeah, that's it. That 2.7K, I think, which he had it on, or whatever footage, for me to fit it in down to be able to see all the image, i.e. to take that envelope and to fit it into the yellow post-it, I had to zoom it down by down to 71%. So it's not at 100%. So the next clip, let's see, it's at 150%. So I'll show you the zoom in here. Yeah, so you're going from that type of look, which is the typical wide GoPro look, and you're zooming in to 150%. So you're seeing, it's probably hard to see on a still image, but that's the enemy there. And if I hit play, you'll see Jamie pop up and hit him. Again, there's another enemy here. So that's the enemy there. He's wearing a black helmet. So just to show you the zoom again, that's the 70% or 71%, and knocking it forward is 150%. So any of you guys that are AEGs, there's Stigmas in the house. Sorry, I'll read the comments in a wee second to see what you guys are saying, but to be a wee bit more cost effective, sometimes you don't need a scope cam. Especially over here in Northern Ireland, we're only at 1 joule, so we aren't shooting like 70 to 100 meters. All our engagements are typically, like, you know, there may be the odd shot, but typically they're below 40 meters. And the majority of my engagements are even probably about 30 meters and under. Like maybe about 80% of my engagements are, you know, that sort of distance. So they aren't an awful distance, and I would be sniping. Now I do like getting in on the action quite a bit, but if you're an AEG guy and you're in CQB, or you're just love pressing on the enemy and getting up close to them with your automatic rifle, sometimes I don't think you would even need a scope cam. I think it would zoom in too much, and if you get too tight of a zoom, you may only get their chest or their torso and you won't get the big picture, which wouldn't be great. So yeah, Jimmy doesn't have a scope cam, as you can see, but we're effectively showing who he's shooting just with that digital zoom. I hope I've explained that kind of envelope to post-it kind of look for you. It's kind of hard to explain, and definitely if you're trying it, give it a go. I think in Premiere it's called conform. So do you want your footage to conform to your 1080 timeline? And basically, if you've shot in 4K, you don't want to. What you want it to do is to just to be 4K footage in a 1080 timeline. So it'll then jump in, but then what you do is you go to your slider and you start to back off the size or the scale, and it'll start zooming it back out, or like fitting it all back in. Then it means that whenever you do want to zoom in, you aren't taking 1080 footage and making it 200%. You're going from like 55% or something, whatever the 4K Mavic is, 55% up to 100, and you aren't losing any quality. So that's why I do that. Scale to frame. Stigmas, do you use Premiere? Let me know. Yeah, the zoom is useful. We'll try and link that one. So Fox Screen will hopefully stick on a wee link. Can we get a look at the overlays and how they are done animated? Yes, absolutely. We'll get into that in a wee second. Where you get your no copyright music. I use YouTube. Yeah, we'll get into that. Some 360 editing too. Definitely. I need to work on my edits. I use Power Director as well. Awesome. Stigmas, what's a crack? Yeah, shooting 4K and use keyframes to zoom in at times. Okay, cool. Yeah, so you can use keyframes. Sometimes I find keyframes are a wee bit fiddly, and sometimes I've clicked to record a keyframe and then I've started doing stuff to fix it and it's recorded that, but I haven't meant it to record. So sometimes I don't like using keyframes, and what I do is what you'll see down here. Sorry, I keep on having to look over my laptop because it's in the bottom screen of this big plasma thing. Yeah, so you'll see that's actually all one clip, but what I've done is I've just bladed it or spliced it or whatever your sort of editor says, and I just cut that clip and zoom in that one clip, and then I know that it's only going to be that clip that's going to affect it. So yeah, Foxy Green. Higher res means more pixels to play with, hence you can zoom in on the video and it looks perfect. Exactamundo. Definitely depends on the gameplay. Always run the scope cam on AEG, but don't always use it when showing kills. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's maybe a wee bit too zoomed in. So scale to frame is the Premiere, and Stigmas uses Premiere Pro. Awesome. Only thing to note about 4K editing is it'll require higher spec PCs to be able to run it smoothly. Yep. Okay, here's a statin tip for you. I'm sorry if that deafened you. I've just noticed that this microphone's really, really loud. So apologies if it is, or if it's distorting on you. Let me know if it is distorting, because then I'll adjust it on the camera. So here's a hot tip for you. Whenever you're editing footage, or maybe your footage is running okay but you start using 4K and you notice that your computer is slowing down. So there's a few things that you can do, and even on my Hackintosh, I think, or possibly even on this laptop, the DJI 4K Mavic footage, like straight in, does weird things and I have to convert it. So if you've got 4K footage out of a GoPro or a mirrorless camera or your phone or anything, basically all those cameras are taking your file and they're reading it off a sensor and they're going, that's what that picture looks like. Okay, so I'm going to fold that up and I'm going to put it in a suitcase, and because I need to fit as much footage on as possible. So the GoPros and your phones and mirrorless cameras are designed to compress footage. So the .mp4s, the WMVs, the .movs, a lot of them can be compressed footage. And basically, some people think that why would you use ProRes, which is a way bigger file size. So say I have 1 minute of ProRes versus 1 minute of the Sony MP4 or .mov files. There'll be like maybe a quarter of the size. The mirrorless cameras and the compressed will be like a quarter of the size. However, they're compressed. And so you may say to yourself, well, why would I want uncompressed footage? Well, the reason for that is, imagine if you're going away on holiday and you've compressed all your clothes into the suitcase, but you need your red t-shirt out. You need to physically start ripping things through and going through everything to try and find that red shirt or whatever that you're looking for. Whenever it's uncompressed, it's like walking into a walk-in wardrobe. Everything's there in front of you and it just picks it, and it's very, very fast. It's kind of like the SSD. It's just super quick. So if you're mixing your footage, maybe like for instance I shoot in 1080, but the Mavic is 4K. I actually convert my DJI 4K footage, as I say, because it runs kind of weird. But what I do is I click optimize on Final Cut Pro, and I'll show you how to do that. It's very, very simple. You basically import the footage and you transcode the media. So Stiggy, maybe you've done this before in Premiere Pro, but there's optimize media, and it's already ticked because I've already done that. So that plays like butter even though it's a way bigger file size, and even though it's 4K, it plays like butter and it edits like butter. Really, really good. Not that you edit with butter, but you know what I'm talking about. So that's one tip for you. The other tip for you is this other one, which I know Premiere, I'm not too sure about Sony Vegas. I'm pretty sure Sony Vegas does it. And I'm sorry about Power Director. You may have to use the lingo that I'm using and do a YouTube search or a Google search for it. But it's creating a proxy. So basically what that means is it creates a mini little, if that file, that 4K footage is like a gig, it creates these tiny little files that'll only be a couple of megabytes. So whenever you're editing in it, it doesn't look the sharpest. It looks okay, and I certainly don't struggle editing proxy footage by the look of it. It's absolutely fine. But if you were to bounce out those proxies, then it wouldn't look as good. So you can convert your footage to a proxy. So if you've got 4K footage, like the drone, and you want to, and you find that it's stuttering or it's not coping very well, or maybe even the GoPro stuff as well, highlight it all and create a proxy and go for dinner or go get a drink or whatever. And whenever you come back from converting, so it adds that extra step in your workflow, but it can sometimes pay off, because whenever you're trying to edit and you're trying to edit the music, or you're trying to see when you've actually pulled that trigger, but you're only getting one frame like every 10 seconds, then you've probably missed the shot. So sometimes for the editing, it can be way quicker. So I could have created a proxy, but I didn't. I created optimized media. So let me just go back to the text here. Let's see. Yeah, you can run. Stigmas is saying, let's see, or sorry, actually I'll go back. Radio sounds. Only thing to note about 4K editing is to require higher spec PCs to be able to run it smoothly. Yep. So we kind of covered that if you don't have a high powered PC, you can convert the footage, or you can create a proxy. So those are the two tips that I would give you there, and it should run like butter. If it's still not, it could be the hard drive. In which case, if you switch to an SSD, which are really, really cheap on Black Fridays on Amazon, or even if you search in on Amazon, whenever a deal does come up, their marketing system will go, hey, this SSD is now half price or whatever. So even if it's really expensive for you, there may be a sale on at some point. So definitely do a research. Actually, I don't know if you'll be able to see this. I don't want to disconnect it, but that's actually a mini SSD. That's 1 terabyte, and I think it was about £110. Really, really good. I actually record from my cinema camera directly into that, which is why I got it. And it's really lightweight, really small, so it'd be really good for traveling. And as I say, it's a 1 terabyte SSD, so it's got enough space that I need, and it's also as fast as I need. And I think there's a newer version which is like 6 times faster than that, which you wouldn't be able to optimize because you wouldn't have a processor as quick, so, or RAM as quick, or graphics card as quick. So that would be your new bottleneck. Let's see. So yeah, you can run your timeline as 1080 and render in 4K. So yeah, there's a guy that I follow on YouTube. His name is Matty Hapoya Stiggy. He's Peter McKinnon's best mate. He did a video where he says, okay, I'm going to show you this edit that I've just created, and I want you to tell me which one is the 4K image. And it was very, very difficult to choose. It was A, B, or C. Was it 720p? Was it 1080p? Or was it 4K? And you know, if you had a pen, you could write down which ones you thought were which. I got a few of them right, but a large majority of them I got wrong. Which just goes to show that 4K is maybe still overrated. Now, I have a 4K TV, and here's another thing for you, sorry. I watched the video maybe on my Apple Mac on Safari, and Safari YouTube doesn't support 4K anymore. which I never knew. So I've been watching loads of stuff and it's only been in 1080. So you can go on Chrome or Firefox if you're on a Mac and you'll get the full 4K image, but for some reason Safari doesn't support it. But anyway, yeah, that video, loads of people got it wrong. They couldn't, like 720p is like, you know, if 4K is an envelope and a yellow post-it is 1080, a post stamp would be 720. And he's stretching that post stamp out to 4K. So the computer must be doing a really good job at rendering the 720 up to a 4K, which is what Stiggy's talking about. So working a 1080 timeline and upscale to 4K. So I did it with this video and the last video, I think, of mine. I think, I'm not too sure. Yeah, I did. So I'm not too sure if it looked any sharper. It's probably one of those things that you maybe even need side by side and to stare at them for half an hour and then go, yeah, I think it's this one, which nobody ever does. So let's see. Sorry, there's a lot of chat going on. Should you have a 4K screen to be running edits on 4K, or because you're dropping it to 1080? Should it be okay? So Hatchet Havoc saying about screens. This screen to my right, which you guys can't see, it's not 4K, it's Ultra HD, or sorry, it's not even Ultra HD. Ultra HD is 4K. It's Quad HD, so it's kind of like halfway in between 4K and 1080, whatever that is. And the benefit of using a higher pixelated screen means that you can fit a lot more on. So I could have two windows open and they'd both be really sharp, which is really, really nice to do. One of my friends, in fact, one of my mates and I, we were both talking, you know, should we go to 4K screens? And my new MacBook Pro, sorry, it's a 2016 MacBook Pro, but its default setting is actually lower than 4K. However, it's one of these high spec retinas that do go up to 5K. But whenever you click 5K, so if I loaded up Final Cut Pro in whatever its natural resolution is, and click no, I want more resolution, and thump up the resolution to whatever the screen can handle, the text goes tiny and you really need a magnifying glass to see it. Now, it is pin sharp, but it's too small and you would be straining your eyes. Even though I edit some of my footage, like my cinema camera shoots in 4K and I've been using 6K raw footage as well, whenever I'm editing them, I'm still using a small window, which is like, you know, smaller than A4 to edit it. So you aren't getting the full benefits of it, and it's not like colorists or people in Hollywood, you know, color grade in the cinema with these big mad 6K projectors that are 20 meters wide. They still just use these screens, and if it looks good on those screens, then it'll look good on the cinema screen. So you 1080, I haven't used a 1080 screen in quite a while, because, well, I had a 1080 TV that I used to use as an extra monitor, but it was just, the text was too big. I couldn't shrink it down. So the Final Cut Pro window was really, really big. The font was all really, really big, and you can't change it because that was as big as it could go. But whenever I put it into 4K, then it goes screen, which is small, and then you're coming out into a bigger screen. By all means, get a 1080 screen. It'll look great. Let's see, you could do it on a 1080 screen, but it'll only look like 1080. Ideally, yes, Tommy, but majority of people still only have 1080 screens. Yeah, so that's the other thing. I think Japan are up to 8K TV, but there's something about 8K and even 4K and a lot of cinematographers, and you know, I have this kind of problem whenever I'm shooting some stuff. 4K is way too sharp. There's just too much detail. So there was like a famous story, the local TV crew who were the news reporters, 6 o'clock news, a lot of females started saying no, they didn't want to change from standard definition to HD because you could see every little wrinkle or imperfection or whatever. Yeah, because it gives you that kind of unnatural look. It's too sharp. It's too sharp. So it's interesting. I don't know. As I say, I've released 2 videos and I didn't really notice too much. Has anybody watched the episodes, or did anybody notice a sudden jump up in quality? I'm not too sure. I don't think I did, but I did it to 4K because it means if people do have 4K screens, they can watch it in 4K. So Archid Havoc, that's what I was thinking. So the idea is to upload top 4K, so it's the best 1080 that can be uploaded. Well, yeah, you can I'm not too sure what you mean, but you can take your 1080 footage, which is what I do, and upscale it to 4K. And on the 4K TVs, it should look a wee bit sharper because the TV can handle the pixels and you're giving it the pixels. Now it's guessing the pixels and it's converting the pixels, but yeah, that's what it is. Sorry. I know people have been asking about sound, but I just want to get through all this here. Proxy is what you use in Premiere. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So even if you upload and edit in 4K and you can't, the audience may be able to, definitely. I don't record in 4K. I may start recording in 2.7K. Okay, so sorry, just one wee thing about resolutions. The reason I don't shoot in 4K is none of my GoPros can handle 60 frames a second. Now, the reason I shoot in 60 frames a second, even though like cinematography is normally 24 frames a second and it gives you that beautiful cinema look that some people, it's hard to explain it, but once you understand it and you see it, you do see it. But the reason I don't go for that look and I go for 60 frames a second is because whenever I have my MK23, for example, or even the scope cam on my sniper, and I shoot my MK23, if I was shooting at 24 frames a second, it would be like a photographer shooting 24 photos in the second. But if you time it and you go, okay, are you ready? Okay, go now, and you shoot, you may get the gas coming out first, but then by the time it hits the next photo, which is 1/24th of a second, that's a big lot of time, or that's a huge time. So in terms of 328 feet per second. So the BB's already out of frame, so it hasn't taken a photo with the BB in frame, so you can't see the BB's traveling. Whereas if you take those photos at like 1/60th of a second, obviously that's way faster, so you can see maybe the BB just leaving the exit of the muzzle and continuing on. So that's why I don't shoot in 4K, and I've stuck at 1080 just so then I have the higher frame rates. I know the new GoPros maybe do 4K 60, so if you had one of them, then certainly you could do that there. AKA Satin, for someone like me who edits all my footage in 4K, all cameras are shooting 4K, but head cam and selfie cam are running 60 frames. Scope cam's running at 30 for me, and the drone is running for 30. Yeah, so there's the difference in the frames. So 60 to 30 is quite a nice equation. So it'll look quite nice, and it shouldn't really affect your footage too much. It's literally just half the amount of frames per second, which kind of works. Now I noticed here you said that your scope cam is running at 30. I guess with the scope cam, it's got a longer frame, so it's got more chance of seeing the BB. But I run at 60 frames a second, so I might try going down to 1080, 25 or something, or 30, and seeing if you can still see the BB as clearly. The other benefit of using scope cam at 60 frames a second is sometimes I take the shot and I show you the shot, but if I've just missed, or if it's a shot that looks kind of cool, then what I'll do is I'll convert that 60 frames a second and I'll conform it to a 30 frame a second timeline, which means the 1 second gives you 2 seconds worth of footage, which means that it's twice as slow. I know that is a bit of a tongue melt, but 60 frames a second allows you to go half slow or half slow motion, which is really, really nice. So you do get to see the BB coming out smoothly, or see that person flinch, or see it whiz past his head. which is actually a really, really nice feature, because there's lots of times where I think in game I've shot someone and you may have got annoyed because you think the person hasn't taken your hit. Then a day later you get the footage back and you go, flip, I've watched it in slow motion and I just skimmed him, or I just missed him. So personally, I record at 1080 because the stabilization is better on GoPros and on higher resolutions. Yeah, definitely. Plus smaller files and easier for rendering. Continued, what for should I produce it in, as the footage has mixed FPS? Okay, so basically you could actually do either or, whatever you wanted. I know YouTube support 60 frames a second, so you will see that baby travel way quicker. And I know, like sports football, for example, they shoot in a higher frame rate. They're shooting at 50 or 60 frames a second, because whenever they kick the football, you want to see the ball move, whereas you don't want to see the ball here and then suddenly 20 yards away or whatever. So I would possibly look into doing the 60 frames a second. That'd be really nice. It's really weird to look at. And if you watch 24 frames a second versus 60 frames a second footage, you will notice that it's a lot kind of jaggedy, or I don't know what the word is, but basically 24 frames a second will give you a nice motion blur and it'll look very, very cinematic and nice. Whereas 60 frames a second will go, yo, this is the baby. And it'll show you that baby moving. So yeah, I would try going up to 60 frames a second and see how you like it. Otherwise, basically what the computer will do if you're rendering out at 30 frames a second is it's taking the photo of the baby just out at the muzzle and goes, yeah, I'll leave that one in, but where's the next photo, which is the baby here? Now we want to ditch that one, so they delete that frame and they give you 30 frames a second. So it works quite nice, 60 30. It's a nice equation for the computer to handle the frames, but yeah, 60 would be good. And I'd like to do I'd like to start putting out, actually do that myself, only keep it at 1080. I record all the cameras at 60, but sorry, I don't record the selfie cam at 60. The reason for that is sometimes I don't hook up an external battery to it, and the 60 frames a second drains the battery way quicker. And you don't need 60 frames a second of you just looking at yourself, because you aren't doing any big movements. The scope cam, I would definitely try and get that up to 60 frames a second to see that baby travel. So sorry, I know I missed a few questions. I'll have to scroll back up. Someone was saying about music and sound effects. So this is quite a biggie. I know loads of people struggle with getting royalty-free music, and especially people that are wanting to monetize their videos. Now I'm not at that stage, but anybody that is monetizing their videos, they may get a copyright claim. So if you've used Dr. Dre or whatever, Kylie Minogue, whatever you're into, and you stick that on your video, that artist will get the money. I think 100% of the money that's made, as opposed to you. So right from the get-go, I've been uploading royalty-free music. Actually, well, it's not royalty-free, so I'll explain it a wee bit better. Basically, I use a company called Soundstripe. They are like Spotify. The interface is very much like Spotify. The only difference is it's not chart music. It's music that people have created for YouTubers or for filmmakers. They also have a sound effects section, which is not a higher up package, which I don't pay for because I generally don't use sound effects in my films. Excuse me. Although I have used a couple in this. How I got the sound effects for this, and even the Optimus Prime sound and voice for my last video, it wasn't actually taken from the film. Some guys had gone into a studio and tried duplicating the Optimus Prime voice, and so I got it from them. So go into YouTube, find the sound effect that you like. Here's another tip for you, or the royalty-free music. click the URL, highlight it, and copy that URL. Go into Google and type YouTube to MP3, and it'll bring up a whole host of sites. Paste that URL in, hit convert, and it'll give you that downloaded file. However, me personally, because I use it for my normal everyday work as well as the airsoft, I already have the subscription. It's £10 a month, and if you're interested, I can send you a link and you'll get discount. I think you'll get 25% off. But yeah, so it's like Spotify, and it gives me a whole host of music, and I can search for rock music, hip hop. Do I want it to go slow, fast? What instruments do I want to be in it? Do I want vocals in it, or do I want it to be, you know, just instrumental? So yeah, it's really, really good for that. I know someone was saying to check out the 360 footage, which we will do. Yeah, overlays. Sorry, we'll get into the overlays then here as well. Let's see. Let's see here now. So, yeah, this is the overlays here that I presume that you're talking about. There are a few simple ones. Let me see. Yeah, so this is actually my overlay here. Now, for some reason, this is an actual plugin, and I'm not too sure why I used that plugin as opposed to using just text. But that text is an overlay. The TSK Plankton, it's just a text overlay. But it's a plugin. I think it was to get the glow and to get the look of it, that kind of head-up display look. It saved me creating, but I could show you near enough the same thing. So if we go into text here, and I go into title, and I go into custom, or sorry, build in, build out, and let's see, we'll take a custom, and I'll drop that in just so we see both text. And I type in here whatever his name is, TSK Plankton. So that's what a bog standard text will look like. I think I'll try and, I can't remember the font. I quite like this one. I think that is it. Yeah, so that's it there. So let's bring it down to similar scale. So that's what a text looks like, but obviously it doesn't look as funky as this one. However, there are ways around that. In Final Cut Pro, you could use a glow. So flick that on and we'll show the glow. At the minute, the glow is yellow. So I want it to be white. So I've changed that to white. Sorry, that wee window popped up somewhere else there. And radius will be the size of it. And the blur, you want the blur to be up. And maybe take the radius down. So put the blur up. So you can get a fairly similar look. It's just not as clear. And that one seems to have a bit of blur the whole way around it, whereas that's kind of just in the center. So that's possibly why I didn't use that text, but that's one way of doing that, just for the person that asked that. So overlays then, just to get in real quick, there is the hit markers. The hit marker is just a PNG. So I don't know whether you are familiar with PNGs, but a PNG, once you create, like for instance, I just created that X with a outer glow of black. Let's see here now. Yeah, that's an outer glow of black. If I created that as a JPEG, then the JPEG would have probably put in a black background, which we don't want. So a PNG it keeps the transparent background, so you can obviously see your gameplay footage, and it just overlays it on top. So sorry, you guys probably already know that. So let's get into sorry, I'm just looking at this footage because it's really hard for me to see. So yeah, let's have a look at all these overlays then. If I switch them off one by one here. I think that's that. And then I'll switch off all the effects. So that's what my drone footage looks like. And I've colored it. And yeah, so I've colored it to give that kind of dark, cool look, kind of like a war look, as opposed to bright, fun family kind of color grading. So I've deliberately darkened down the sky because the sky was too overblown. So that's a wee color grading technique for you. Basically, I'm using a mask. So if I switch everything off here just to show you, so I've darkened the image down slightly and taken the contrast out as well. And if I put that on, that shows you the sky coming in there. So that gives you that nice dark sky. This one then was to brighten up the foreground, because I have darkened down basically the sky. What I'm doing is kind of compressing the dynamic range to try and get the bright areas darker and the dark areas brighter. And then I've just dumped on a film LUT. Film LUTs are really good. That's another color grading thing for you. I don't really recommend them, which is like, I know it's a wee bit hypocritical of me to say that don't use them, even though I'm using them. Yes, use them at the start, but learn how to color grade is basically what I'm trying to say. Because it's always good to know about it and learn it, and then you'll be able to apply it to anything. And now that I know how to color, I can color things. So in the last video, I obviously colored it to look like Transformers, which is a famous teal and orange look. So that's that. Sorry, there's a few wee questions rolling in here as well. Yeah, Ranger saying if you watch the videos on a big TV, you definitely want 4K. Yeah, the bigger your TV, then the better. For 4K certainly. Honestly, if I could get 1080, 120 with good stabilization, I'd go for it. See if you see what you do is strap some A7 IIIs to your gun and helmet. Yeah, definitely. That'll be the way to do it. So I have the A7 III. That's the camera that I use. And it's really good. Yeah, but it's really expensive. And plus you'd get a BB to your lens. But anyway. Soundstripe, I can be hard to find a decent backing music that's no copyright on YouTube. Yeah. Soundstripe's really good. Yeah, I haven't paid for subscription yet, but I may in the future. I don't know what the legality of it is for someone to have a membership and pay that membership, but then, for example, for me to have the membership and for me to send you a file, because technically what happens is whenever you click download to use it, it knows the user that created it and it sends the money to that user. So if you're using that song, the guy's going to get the money for it. I think the only problem would be if I downloaded a song and I started using it, but then I gave it to you and you started using it, that person's missing out on some royalties there. So that would be the only problem. Let's see. Adam Desmond's came in and joined, and he's saying, I do have a question more relating to video editing itself. Would you say use DaVinci Resolve like you or yourself, or to use Premiere Pro, which I'm using at the moment? it's totally up to you. If you want to ditch the whole subscription thing and you want to learn a new program, as it said earlier, I don't know if you were there, DaVinci Resolve basically gives you gives you the option of what you want it to look like. Do you want it to look more like Premiere Pro, or do you want it to look more like Final Cut Pro? So there will be loads of similarities. It's a professional bit of software, and it will do way more than you'll ever need to do. It's got an integrated 4D platform, so you can have 3D text, or you can build a set. So if you're doing green screen, you could build, Game of Thrones if you wanted, in Fusion, which that program's called, which is in DaVinci Resolve. So yeah, it's totally up to you. It's a really good program. Premiere Pro though, I would probably stick with it maybe. I know you do have to pay a subscription, but there's a lot more plugins available, and it's a lot more consumer friendly, whereas DaVinci Resolve is a wee bit more higher end. So maybe you could learn it whilst you're still using Premiere and see how you like it. It's free, so give it a wee download. So just to get back to the overlays, just to show people. So this is probably a good time to talk about plugins. So for Final Cut Pro, I use Pixel Film Studios. So here's another tip for you. If you have Final Cut Pro, Pixel Film Studios are a really good software company that constantly are putting out plugins to make it look like it's raining in your footage, or snow, or fog, or fire. I've used a few fire transitions in my recent Instagram video that I put up with Skirm Shop that I created. So yeah, there's loads of really good stuff. Now, as I say, it's only available for Final Cut Pro. However, that brings me on to the other thing. There will be companies out there making things for Premiere Pro. So this one is called HUD, which is Head Up Display. So if you type in, Head Up Display, you may even get it on YouTube, Head Up Display overlays, and you might be able to then download that footage, and it may come to you like a green screen, but then literally stick on a green screen keyer plugin, which all of the softwares will have. So try that. So they are animated already. Now I could create these if I wanted to, and just to show you another wee thing, even though that orange one there that I'm switching on and off, I've keyframed that like Fox Green does with his zooms. So if you look at the scale, I've tracked that, and now you may notice that I've tracked it very sloppily. It's not sloppily, it's just done really quickly. So pick a good spot in your frame and try and keep to that spot. It works out a wee bit differently with a drone because perspective changes and everything, so it is actually quite hard to track. There are plugins that will tracking plugins which you can buy that are pretty darn good. Otherwise, use Adobe After Effects if you're any good at that. You'll already know how to do that. But here's an overlay that I created then, and I just did that in Photoshop. So it's just like the crosshairs of kind of like an Apache gunship. And just gone into Photoshop, drawn lines, and I think I've done that all within Photoshop, but I've changed it to overlay, so it makes it kind of transparent, and maybe even brought down the opacity down a wee touch just to keep it transparent so it's not bold white and sticks out quite a bit in the frame. But I've also added outer glow just to help to give that kind of computer look, because these I think I got the idea from these plugins, because the text had that kind of glow to it, and so I thought, yeah, I like that, I'm gonna add that in. And with this one I just changed the color and tracked it, so that's how I did that. The only other overlay that I really use, there's the scope one, You should be able to get them pretty handy enough. Try and look for PNGs. Yeah, sorry, Fox Green's talking about the overlays. Where do you get all your overlays? For example, your drone overlays. I find it hard to find good ones. Yeah, so the drone overlays, you could probably create them pretty easily. Like for example, as I say, that target one, it literally took me like about 2 minutes to do. So open up Photoshop, create a rectangle, delete the center sections, and then draw a line, and then copy that, twist it around to give you your crosshair, and delete the center bit. And then I chucked in that outer glow. So that's how I did that. I know there's all those little bars and things like that move. Again, just look online. You may even, YouTube's your friend. Like, I mean, as I said at the very, very start of this, I was on YouTube constantly in my job, constantly learning. And, you know, for example, we had shows on like 4 times a year. So whenever we weren't doing a show, we were like kind of just in our offices looking care of the classrooms and things like that there. But I just inhaled YouTube tutorials, how to do the green screen, how to create PNGs, how to do this, how to do that, you know, and even worked on Photoshop and Lightroom a wee bit, which we can actually get into. If anybody's into photos, we can go into Lightroom and show you some of my photo editing stuff. But yeah, so for the overlays, either go on YouTube and pick something like, or even watch Call of Duty and look at the AC-130 and see what's in that frame. And you may not even have to keyframe any movements. You may be able just to put up like AC-130 text in a really nice style, and maybe have that crosshair, and maybe download a few other images and create PNGs, like how I told you. Like for example, the target scope, it, once you download that might not be a PNG, it may be a JPEG. Bring it into Photoshop, and wherever there is white, for example, if I show you on the screen here, it could well be that this center section here is all white except for the black crosshair, and in which case just use your magic eraser and delete white, and that'll take all the white out and leave the transparent background. Then export that as a PNG. So PNGs are your friend for overlays. So that would be my tip for drone stuff, and tracking as well. Tracking, if you this let's see, yeah, so I kind of have a little magnification kind of tool for, so the text is being tracked as well. I've attached it to a tracker. So I've written in the text, which is primary objective, retrieve explosives. And basically, if we watch the movement of that text, I'll just mute this so you don't have to. You can see the text does move, and it sticks with that orange circle a wee bit, and it also rotates slightly. I'll put in a slight tilt just to give you a wee bit of 3D aspect on it. So this tracker has a built-in magnification, but it's just a fancy zoom. So if you're tracking something with a keyframe, just go up to your framing and stick it up to 200% and look at whatever you're locked onto. So in hindsight, I probably could have tracked onto that little white house and put the center of the red or that orange target on that house and kept the center on that white house, and that would have given me a nice track for me to visually follow. Sometimes you can get auto trackers, and you literally click the item that you want to attach it to. So say that white house, you hit play on the footage and it creates the keyframes to keep it to that white house, and it records the movements for you, which is really, really nice. So that is that. Now only other overlay that I do, and I think I've only ever done it once or twice, because I always forget about it, is basically the splatter effect of blood whenever I die. Yeah, that's the only other one. How I create my splatter effect overlays then, again in Photoshop, or you might be able to do this on Paint or any of those Windows type programs. Fox Screen, I think you said you use like Paint Pro or something like that. So I'm sure, same again, go on to Google Images and type in splatter effect or something like that. If you can't get a PNG, get the JPEG and delete the color that you don't want, i.e. not the splatter. If you get the splatter and it's in black, ideally it should be, you know, a normal color, not just black or not just pure white. They're the hardest to change color. But obviously if it's a green splatter, you can easily change it to red by changing the hue. So if you go into adjustments and go into hue and you slide that slider, you can change it that way. In Photoshop you can do it 10 million ways. You can do the hue thing. The other way is there's a paint replacement brush which you can color in as well. So you click red, and rather than it just giving you a red circle effect, it just colors the things red. So it keeps the detail there, and it just doesn't overlay a red circle over your image. So that's that. I use Lightroom, but must get Photoshop to make my own PNGs, etc. Thanks, man. Yeah, so Lightroom's more for raw photos. If you're shooting in JPEGs, I wouldn't really recommend Lightroom, because JPEGs out of the camera should look the best. I know wedding photographers, and talking to them, and you expect them to kind of shoot in RAW because they're professional, and a couple of them have surprised me and said, no, I shoot in JPEG, and I'm like, what? Why don't you use RAW? Sure, it's professional. And it's because JPEGs should, in theory, look better than RAW. RAW is slightly desaturated, and even my cinema camera, it shoots in log, which looks very pale and pasty grey, and you have to add all the colour in post. And RAW is kind of similar, not quite as bad as the cinema camera, but it isn't as vibrant and everything, and doesn't have the detail like JPEGs, because the camera is doing the processing for you. But if you give the camera the right information, i.e. you've got the brightness right and the white balance right, then you can do that. Fox, you have an iPad. I use Procreate for making my own PNGs. I gotta go, man. Thanks a lot for the live vid. Stay safe, and I hope we can get out soon for a game. Definitely. Fox Screen, thanks for joining in, and we will be wrapping up very quickly as well. Procreate's pretty good. So just to show you one last wee thing to make it all really quick for you. Anytime that you are doing an edit and you want to color grade the edit, rather than going into all these clips and clicking on them one by one, you can simply go create an adjustment layer. So in Premiere Pro, that's pretty easy. Just create an adjustment layer, or in Final Cut Pro here, I have to go to generators, I think it is. And there, let's see, or maybe it is in title, sorry. But if I type in adjust, there it is, there's the adjustment layers. I drag that in and I drop it on top of my footage. Therefore, whatever's on top, that's the way it'll color. So at the minute, I've got that LUT on, but of course I could color it any way I wanted it. But yeah, that's another wee tip for you. Use those adjustment layers, and that'll be really quick. We're probably going to wrap up because I've gone on quite a bit. Certainly, if there's anything else that I can think of that I can go into more detail, I'll probably just create a wee video. But this was more of an interactive thing to try and answer some of your questions. So is there anything at all before I start to wrap up here? I've gone over the cameras, I've gone over the hardware, and I've gone over the editing. I can maybe do a whole video on how I edit and why I choose clips and things like that. But tonight was specifically about, you know, just putting a video together for Jamie from his one GoPro and to give you the information of how I did it with one GoPro. So I showed you the zooms. I showed you getting the drone footage. And so, yeah, ask people or borrow it, big borrow steal. I'll talk to the site owner. They may even have the drone footage. And I've shown you the overlays and everything like that. Show us that 360 cuts. Okay, let me see. I'll show you the 360. Sorry, buddy, I know you said to me earlier. That was very rude of me to leave you out. Just need to find it. Here's another wee thing for you. This is how I label my footage. It's quite important whenever you're importing footage to try and keep an eye on it. If you've got 3 GoPros, then they're all going to be called GoPro and a weird random number. So you won't be able to remember which number is which for what camera. So I label them gun for that kind of selfie cam. I use head for my head cam, scope, and then the 360s. So here's the 360s, and you'll see all these clips here were filmed on the 23rd of February. However, the 360 camera footage was the 24th, and that's because it took me a day to convert the footage. So I actually did it the next day. So I came home from Airsoft and imported all the footage which was created on the 23rd. The 360 camera was imported into the studio, Insta Studio on the 23rd and created on the 23rd, but it probably didn't convert until the 24th. So that kind of shows you the length of time. It must have taken about 6 hours to do. So I probably went to bed on the 23rd and got up the next day to convert it. Yeah, so here's some of the 360 footage. That's actually quite a pretty good wee angle there. As I was saying, I had loads of problems with the the 360 camera staying in the appropriate place, but hey ho. So this is the 360 camera. I'm going to ditch this, and what you need to do is bring up the 360 viewer. So you will notice here suddenly we get all these here, which is the orientations. So I can pretty much look about any way I want, and you know, you can carry on doing basically 360s in every direction, which is really, really cool. So that's it zoomed in. What I've done is you can take the 360 footage and edit it on your phone by looking about, and you visually look at it wherever you want it to see. But the problem with that is then it puts that overlay of this was created by Insta360, and you can only do it on your mobile phone, so it's only mobile phone quality, whereas this is the full quality. So what I do is to get it into Final Cut, you have to flatten the image, the 360 image, and export that as a .mov, which actually looks like that atlas. So there's my 360 camera. It's cleverly Final Cut has worked out that it's a 360 camera, so that's why you're kind of getting that globe. So I think if I go here, I think I can get away with putting it to 125. Yeah, so there we can see that we're getting a full image, but it's nice and wide compared to whatever it was set at. I think it was set at 90. So yeah, this is the y-axis, so I can look everywhere around me, and there you can see in the shadow down here. Most of the time what I do is for example, once I get it into place, I don't really touch it The only time I change it is, say, an enemy, or say there's me catching up on Josh, and I want it to then look at wherever he's looking. You can splice the clip, and you can click on that clip, and you can then look in a different direction. So do you want to look it back at me for a few seconds, and then splice again? And do you want to then look at Josh, who was my teammate on the day? Let me just do this. You can probably hear the fans of my laptop. 360 footage is quite intensive, so my fans, we've been doing this live stream now for almost 2 hours, so and it's running the cameras and everything, so the laptop's doing quite a bit. So I don't recommend trying to video edit while you're doing live streams, because it takes up so much graphics processing. But there I've changed the angles, so if we watch this back then, oh sorry, I'll move it forward a bit so you don't have to watch, but you'll see here where I've changed the angle of the clip, so it cuts back to me and then it cuts to Josh. So that's one of the benefits of the 360 camera. I really liked it, and I'll hopefully get another one. There you can see that kind of it's kind of like part of the case, and in fact what that is a bit of spray from the paint, and that's a bit of paint that I haven't obviously sealed properly whenever I've masked it to give it a paint job, to get it to camouflage in a wee bit better. So yeah, that's that. The Insta360 is really good. You can use it for those different perspectives. So as you can see, I used it as a selfie cam there. I used it as the zoom out at the start to kind of show you me in the frame, but also what's ahead of me. So is there enemy ahead of me? Or here I used it pointing back at me. So is there teammates behind me? Is there enemy behind me? I can all look at that. And I can remember what happened in the game, so I can look back and see things. And the other thing is sometimes you can pick up some funny things, like people falling and things like that, because it's filming everywhere, which tends to happen, and you can make a good bloopers reel then. But that's how you change the 360 footage. So it's a really, really nice camera, and it's as simple as that. There's the pan, tilt, and roll, and you just tell it whatever way you want to look. Obviously a roll is to spin it round and upside down, so you can do loads of funky edits. I know Store Online, who are on YouTube, they're a big YouTube channel for parkour, and they've started using these 360 cameras. I think they're sponsored by GoPro, so they use the cameras. But yeah, it's the same principle. Just do your pan, tilt, and roll, and you keyframe it. So you can get it to do a slow fade round. So I'll show you how to do that. So there's Josh there. We're looking at Josh. What we do is we click our keyframes, and then we go to wherever else we want to look. So say back at me, and we want to go that direction. So now that's recorded that in. So whenever I hit play, the camera will start to spin around and look at me. And it's as easy as that. So guys, I'm probably going to wrap it up there. It's been 2 hours. It's flown in. I hope it's kind of answered a lot of questions. Hopefully YouTube save this and keep it online. I don't know if it keeps it online forever or maybe a week or something. I don't know. It's the first time I've done a YouTube stream. I know on Instagram I did an hour long one night, and at the end of it, it asked me did I want to post to my stories, but obviously an hour long story would have taken ever to upload and things like that, so I didn't bother doing it. So we'll see what YouTube does. Thanks very much for joining me. As I say, hopefully it answered loads of questions. I did take it right back from the start, from talking about hardware, talking about cameras and everything, and talking about the laptop. There's Gazzy there. You see, this is this guy here, Official Gaz. It's actually his fault that got me into all this airsofting business. But I'm glad he did push me because it's going really well. Just to mention, I'm now getting a very good helping hand from Skirm Shop NL. So those guys are going to be sponsoring the channel and going to be sending me out some things. There's lots of wee videos in the pipeline through that, so go and check them out. You can use the discount code aka Statin, and that'll give you some money off. Just to let you know that Skirm Shop, Amazon, everybody, they're all struggling obviously with coronavirus. So Skirm Shop, actually, you may order something, and Skirm Shop, the staff there are really good. They've got a really good logistics setup. You will most likely get an email either that day, if it's early enough in the morning that you order, or the next day, an email saying your things have been dispatched. After that, it's up to the delivery gods to actually get it to us. So everybody's struggling with delivery. So if it takes a wee while to get from Skirm Shop, then that's why. It's not that they're sitting on their butts doing nothing. Everybody's flat out, and obviously we're all in lockdown, so we're all looking toys to tinker with and upgrade whilst we're in lockdown. So get on to them and order yourself some upgrades.